let's move on. Let's talk about the Celtics. The Celtics have won 7 in a row. They look like they have figured some things out.
They look better.
They look better. And they've done this despite the fact that they've dealt with like a couple of injuries. Like Al Horford is struggling through some things right now. Gordon Hayward is like ill. He didn't play against the Wizards. I know that. They're dealing without Gershon Yabusele, by the way. He has a sprained ankle. The God, Dab God.
The Dab God. Maybe that's why it is. Maybe that's why they're succeeding. I mean, the big thing out of this is that Kyrie has kind of taken his game to another level.
Right.
Which is the whole shtick. I also think that they've done a nice job in sort of doing what I said they should do 2 months ago, which is simplify their shit. And that has been effective. They're doing a little more strength in numbers. They're not asking as much out of Tatum or out of Brown. But Kyrie has to step up to make that shit work. I would also like to note that their schedule hasn't been all that tough.
No, it hasn't. But the fact that they're now 11th in offensive rating, I think is notable. And not all of that is coming from the 133-point outburst against the Bulls. They dropped 120 on the Timberwolves when the Timberwolves have actually kind of figured some things out defensively and look really good. They dropped 124 on the Pelicans, which not necessarily a great defense, but whatever.
But still, they're putting down numbers and they're shooting a high percentage, and the ball's moving a little bit better. Let me see the assists. I mean, they've gotten 30 assists once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. 4 times out of the last 6 games. That's big for them. That's when things are right, when the assist numbers are clicking.
Right, and they're not turning the ball over either. If you look at their last 3 games, turnover rates
13, 7, 9. Yeah,
well, it's even better than that. It's 11, 11, 7.
Oh, I was just reading off the raw turnover numbers here from Basketball Reference.
Oh, I was talking turnover percentage. They're at 11, 11, 7 over the last 3 games. Those numbers are minuscule.
We know that this team can defend even without Horford. It is systematically built to slow teams down. Listen, beating the Bulls by 50 whatever is going to skew some numbers for sure. But
sure,
you're holding. It all looks very normal right now. You look at these numbers, you look at the games. It looks like the Boston Celtics are a Brad Stevens coach team with an incredible amount of depth and a little bit of cohesion. And I think Hayward looking better is a big factor in this. That it gives them sort of a second kind of smoke. That they can use off the bench and in the second units and stuff like that. Kyrie, I think, increasing his defensive intensity and taking on more of a leadership role on court as opposed to just sort of yapping about it off the court is big. And the fact that they were probably always just simplifying stuff for the younger guys is helpful. But the fact that they were just always going to probably do this is the bigger factor. And they got a nice stretch here, and they kind of ran out of time to make excuses after a pretty shitty stretch. Couple weeks ago when they lost here 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5, with the only win coming against Atlanta. They had run out of time. They had to make it happen. They're making it happen. A lot of reasons to be positive about what's happened.
Yeah, and you know what, too? It's worth mentioning as well that they won last night without Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they're actually figuring some things out while dealing with just random nicks.
Right, they don't have a cohesive lineup. Yeah,
and Al Horford didn't play in that game either. They're getting real minutes right now.
I mean, I know it's Washington, but Washington's been playing better. But when you don't have 3 of your best players, and there's no argument that those are obviously 3 of their best players, even though Hayward is not where he once was, and Brown is having a tricky year. That's huge. That's big.
Yeah, and the fact that they're getting real contribution right now from Shimi Ojeleye and Daniel Tice and Robert Williams has looked really good. Robert Williams,
the man you said would be spending all of his time in Maine, and I was talking him up in the preseason.
Time Lord, baby. We're here for Time Lord. Robert Williams looks intriguing. Shout out Texas A&M for playing him in the corner of his own regularly.
SEC basketball, baby.
They look like a team that is kind of starting to play for each other. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yes, absolutely. Good point.
And we'll see what happens whenever they have a full complement of guys. Because, maybe, not having a full complement of guys has simplified things in the way that you're talking about. Maybe that
you need to be a bit more pragmatic.
Yeah, like maybe that's just like, you know what, Kyrie going, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
There's like, I can help. I can rely on Jason. I can rely on Marcus. Terry can come in for me and I can play with Terry sometimes.
Yes.
We'll get buckets together. But this is me. Like, this is my show. And I think that does simplify things and it makes things easier for Boston.
Two things on that. I think Terry has done.
Like that's actually kind of not a good thing sometimes. That like it makes it easier because this team's ceiling is higher with these other guys, right? Like it's higher
for sure.
Having Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward and Al Horford. Breaking news, right?
Right. You have to have a base though. And when they were trying to figure out the most complicated part of the entire game, just all at once, where you got to build, there's foundational stuff that you got to set down. And when you bring in a player like Hayward, you're going to have to recalibrate everything. I mean, it's a different building, and they had not set a foundation, and we all know that Stevens is about that kind of shit. And so when you were trying to sort of, I don't know, cram study in a way, trying to get it all figured out immediately, it's going to look rough, and that's what it did. So that's why I've been saying they needed to simplify it. Yes, they forced it. I think that they can build off of this now because two things. I think Terry Rozier has done a nice job of just sort of accepting what's happening. He's sort of playing within himself now a little bit more than I thought he was earlier in the season. And the second thing is Tatum is finally getting the message that he can't be a taller Mamba. Like seriously, like I don't know what game it was, but it was in Jackie Mack's great piece on Jaylen Brown about how, I think it was, sorry, it all blurs together, about how Stevens pulls Tatum after like a minute and 10 seconds because he pulls up on a 25-foot jump shot or a 17-foot mid-ranger that off of two dribbles, and it's just like, this is not how we play basketball. Yes, you can do that, and they will probably need him to do that as much as they need Kyrie to do it come playoffs, come crunch time, come those big minutes. But during the first 40 or so minutes of the game, it's about the system, it's about ball movement, it's about penetrating dish, it's about just catch and shoot and not trying to get into this hero ball ISO crap. And Tatum, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, so I won't belabor the point, but like, he made a jump mid-playoffs, and that's going to skew your perception of perhaps what it is you are already. But his game looks a lot simpler. It looks a lot closer to an improved version of last year's regular season, which is what the building block should have been. And I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see them against better competition on a more consistent basis, to be totally honest. But at this time, I think we can kind of call off the dogs